The following is a paid program and does not necessarily reflect the opinions of the staff or management of Visionary Related Entertainment.
Aloha and welcome everyone to Maui Nonprofit Notes, the weekly radio show where we talk story with Maui's nonprofit executive directors and staff to find out how they're working to support the needs within our community. Maui Nonprofit Notes is generously sponsored by Pacific Source. If you're building or remodeling a home, you've just got to stop by the Pacific Source's cabinet and appliance showroom in the Waikapu Bayshard. I'm Susie Tiemann, Executive Director of Lokahi Pacific and President of the Maui Nonprofit Directors Association. For those of you who listen each week, you know that during this hour we share the experiences of how our nonprofit agencies are working to benefit our island home, with stories of how these agencies are changing lives, changing communities, and creating miracles of hope for those in need. Today we have somebody from the Red Cross, and we have a couple of people from MEO's Early Childhood Services Department. We're going to start off with the Red Cross because we are in the middle of hurricane season. Somebody said the other day that the storm we had, was it just last week? It seems so long ago.
It's Monday.
Was a test run for when the season really hits. And I said, wait a minute, I think it started in June, didn't it?
It did, June 1st.
So the important thing for us is that a lot of people are saying that was like a trial run or a test run because all the pieces were there for a really nasty storm. And the county and the state really got together and got everybody where they belonged in place. And then it was like, what happened?
Mother Nature did her thing. No, I think we've all learned over the years with Red Cross that there's no controlling Mother Nature. It's to really be as prepared as we can for whatever she presents and to be patient in waiting. We really expected that storm to hit about noon or 2 p.m. And she decided to really dance out there and then showed her power at about 5:45.
And it was interesting because while we were waiting for this power to arrive, the quickness with which it arrived and disappeared
was pretty phenomenal. And it actually went from 0 to 1,000 in 5 minutes.
Wow.
And really it was very interesting. I know in Red Cross we got a call from one of our Kihei shelters saying that they had seen hail in Kihei. And where we thought we were going to maybe scale down and close shelters, that report, which came about 4:45 or so, was an indication to us that there was probably something coming because hail is often an indicator of tornado, even though we don't have tornadoes in Hawaii.
Interesting, because of the force that it takes to create hail.
Yes. So that really was kind of a blessing that we got that heads up.
It's kind of an early warning sign, yeah?
It was, just minutes away, actually.
Not really early warning, yeah.
But that shows you how important it is to pay attention to surroundings and don't always assume because the clouds are, the skies are clear and we've had just beautiful weather all day.
Right.
That there isn't something on the horizon.
It's just around the bend of the mountain is kind of what that one was, right? Because it came in from the east like that. We're speaking with Angel Devlin Brown, who is a volunteer with the Red Cross, and she works on resource development and teaching Red Cross classes. Say that fast. About 4 times. Yeah. And you've been working with the Red Cross for quite a few years.
Well, I've actually been working in the field of disaster for several years and have been able to align or join our local Maui chapter here over the last couple years when I returned home to retire.
I see. Okay, so you've worked on the mainland with them then too for other disasters.
I've worked with them. I actually have worked in the insurance industry in the past, and we worked very, very closely on many disasters, including Iniki, hand in hand with our Red Cross people.
I see. Interesting. So take us through some of the preparation for last Monday's event and how that, a lot of times people say, well, there was all this warning about it and we did all these preparations and it was like a 45-minute event. So next time, I guess we don't have to worry about it.
We hear that all too often. Actually, preparations on many levels, including, I'm sure, the county, because we were interfaced with them as of Sunday. We had actually been tracking the storm for a couple days out, so many of us were on standby, kind of getting our own personal preparations for our families in place, so that when we did get the call that was time to activate, we would be ready to do that. Usually Red Cross doesn't really jump into action, at least as the public sees it, until the event happens, and then we come in after the fact. But prior to that, we are already calling all of our people, asking them to ready themselves and their family, be prepared to respond to a call. We can kind of project when that might come, and to be ready to go, knowing what the shifts might be, usually 12-hour shifts. In this case, we were actually asking our first responders to be prepared for no less than 12 hours and possibly 24.
Wow.
Because we take our call from the civil defense when they give an all clear. We can't shift people in and out until we get an all clear.
I see. So now, when you're talking about your responders, what kinds of things are they covering?
What we're generally doing in those early day or the pre-activities is we're identifying what kind of storm is coming in, what kind of sheltering or activities, emergency response activities, we're going to be asked to provide. If it's a large storm, more than likely we're going to be asked to provide sheltering. Mm-hmm. If it's a hurricane or like what we thought this was, a quick tropical storm, we were really preparing for the event of flooding and possible landslide or movement. The storm itself is going to hit, it's going to do what it's going to do, but we really look at what's the aftermath that we are going to have to respond to and help people get through. So all of our gearing up was with that thought in mind. We were identifying with the county possible places that we can open shelters that were equipped to handle both high wind and what we call stand-up evacuation. Wasn't where we thought maybe people were going to have to be there for 2 or 3 days. We were hoping it would come in, hit, and then we would have some possibly that would need long-term sheltering. But we would assess that after the storm. The other thing we do is we look at food needs. Are we going to be needing to provide meals? Contacting the vendors of many businesses here on Maui to see if they would be, are they in a situation that if we gave them a 5-minute call, how long would it take them to get us what we needed, water supplies, sandwiches maybe, hot coffee. God bless all the coffee makers on this island, because that's the one thing Red Cross always tries to have is a hot cup of coffee when you arrive.
That's the settling factor for
yes.
people.
The comfort
calming
food.
factor.
It's our comfort food.
So, and you don't want all these supplies in early because you have nowhere to go with them.
Right. Some of our supplies we do pre-stage. We have, through the generosity of some of our donors, we actually have storage units strategically placed throughout the island so that in the event of a shelter or a large hit, we're not having to bring cots and sheltering supplies, basic supplies, from Kahului out to Lahaina.
I see.
So we have strategically placed these throughout the island, hopefully in areas that are not evacuation zones. We try to think ahead. So some of that is moved in place initially as soon as we get the call up that we're on what we're going to have to do. But there's a lot of perishable items that are needed and a lot of last-minute supplies that we can't predict until we actually get a feel for what Mother Nature's got in store.
Right. I understand that. Now, this was a tricky storm because of all the lightning and the potential for damage that it was creating.
Yes.
We haven't seen that with a lot of our other hurricanes as such.
Right.
So that's the difference between this storm and the typical hurricane.
Yeah,
right?
it is. I mean, and I've been here in Hawaii for almost 50 years, and I can count on my fingers the times that we've had a lightning storm as we saw it, and with such intensity and in such a short period of time. And this was different. It was even different for Red Cross. Usually we don't open up a shelter till after the fact, and then we're there. But in this case, much like in Aniki, we were asked to open up shelters prior to the event, and then you're kind of opening and everybody's waiting, so there's all this all this anxiety kind of building,
You're right.
especially with the people in the shelters.
And so and you had the folks from like the Humane Society in the, what was it, 3 or 4 shelters that,
Yes,
that
we
allowed
did.
animals.
Yes.
They were staging their
They were
their
doing their
equipment.
best, yes. The Humane Society is one of our community
Mm-hmm.
partners. As you know, Red Cross shelters people, and the Humane Society helps us to shelter their pets. But their function is really independent of us, but we try to work together as much as possible as a team. We have some restrictions or some limitations because in cases of stress or people with allergies, we can't necessarily mix pets with human population, but we certainly understand how important pets are to everybody. And in this case, these pets would have really had a hard time with that lightning.
Yeah.
So the Parks and Recreation people were great in trying to help the Humane Society work together with us in finding some safe places for shelter for them.
It's hard to imagine. I mean, I'm thinking like my little puppy dog, trying to get him ready to go someplace where you've got to have all these supplies ready because you don't normally have these at home.
Right. Well, and we were talking last night. I taught a class last night for some people who are interested in becoming new volunteers. And they were saying they have their dog kennels because they have 2 little dogs, and they're just about ready to throw them out. I go, not a good idea, because if you bring them to a shelter, one of the requests that the Humane Society does have is that you bring your animals in a kennel, because these are animals that are not used to being with each other, and they're under stress.
Right.
And so respectfully to the animal, you want to be sure that they're feeling somewhat contained and safe.
That's a good point, and that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I've never had a kennel for him.
Yeah,
And so it's like,
mine
what would
either.
what would I grab? What could I cut a hole in so he
Yeah.
could breathe through it, or kind of thing, like an old suitcase
Yeah.
or a duffel bag, or because he's small. But
Yeah.
a lot of things to think about, and you think, well, maybe it won't hit.
Yeah, but it might not, and we will all be very blessed. We always feel blessed when we know something has decided to take a turn and then it's not coming. But to dare Mother Nature is not necessarily a smart thing to do, as we know.
Exactly.
And it's been 20 years since Hurricane Iniki hit the Hawaiian Islands, and there is a life cycle to all weather patterns.
Right.
And I think we're in an overdue cycle.
And we had what was it, Hurricane Eva?
The year
Was it
before.
just the
in
year
80
bef-
No,
a
it was
couple
in
years.
83. Eva was a Hurricane
Yeah.
1, a Force 1.
Okay, and that was just a few years before that. So if we're looking at cycles, we
Yeah.
are past due.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, because I remember standing. I had just moved here a few years before that. And I remember standing out in the back deck watching the winds. And matter of fact, I watched a roof lift off of a house across the lake from me, and I'm going, "Wow!" And somebody says, "What are you doing standing out there? Do you know what, a little twig can turn into in these winds?" And I said, "No." And they go, "Yeah, well, it could be the end of
Weapon.
you just now."
Yeah.
And
So the civil defense is really great about putting out safety precautions. And we know that a lot of times people don't want to leave their properties. And so civil defense and essential personnel here on the island are just unbelievable about being able to change that dynamic. And we know how difficult that can sometimes be. The other thing is there's so much that each of us can do within our own families, our own ohanas, to get people ready. And, we have to remember that we live on an island. And if this storm would have hit at its full force, it more than likely would have impacted the entire state. Obviously, resources come in and are available by populations of island and access. During Iniki, we had both the harbor and the airport down. If Oahu was also hit, and they got a brunt of this that they weren't expecting also, we need to be prepared within ourselves as an independent island. Or we have Maui County, which is both Molokai, Lanai, and of course Maui. Probably for 7 to 10 days of having to really be able to manage this situation by ourselves, until we can get extra resources and personnel as well as supplies. I can't tell you how challenged Kauai was when we worked, when I worked that event. It was amazing. And National Guard came out and we had a lot of help. But people, if you're prepared yourself with water, with food, medication is so important. It's very hard for us to get medication during those times. So that is a very critical point that we try to remind people of. And to have an evacuation plan with your family. If you're separated for some reason, where will you meet if you're in the neighborhood? Where's a common point of contact? These are things that are so important because when it hits, you don't have time to think. You're just reacting.
Reacting, right. And on that note, we're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back.
Aloha from Pacific Source, and thank you for your support over the years. Pacific Source has offered more of what builders and homeowners value most in building materials and cabinet design. We've done this by offering superior customer service and products, as well as by designing kitchens and baths that are intelligent and elegant while staying true to your vision and budget. Visit our showroom in Waikapu in Central Maui, where we display a variety of cabinets as well as top-name appliances like Sub-Zero, Wolf, Viking, KitchenAid, and more. We display countertops, tile and wood flooring, and several brands of windows and doors, including Fleetwood multi-slides and La Cantina folding doors. Come in and talk to our designers about making your dreams become a reality. From concept to completion, we really believe our attention to detail and superior service are what sets us apart. Let us show you what we mean. We are a Pacific Source at 515 East Oahe Way in the Consolidated Base Yard in Waikapu, just off Waiko Road. Call us at 986-0380. That's 986-0380, or look us up online at packsource.com.
And we are back. This is Maui Nonprofit Notes, your weekly radio show where we talk story with our nonprofit executive directors and staff. Find out what's happening out there in their world, which is not always the same as our world. We're talking right now with Red Cross volunteer extraordinaire, Angel Devlin Brown, who has just been through the, as some call it, the test period of this latest hurricane turned. Officially, it was a tropical storm.
Depression.
By the time it was here, it was a tropical depression. Yeah. Now, a good point that you were making right before the break about being prepared for 7 days because of the island situation that we have. I know a lot of materials that we read is 3 days to 5 days, and that's okay if you're on the mainland and you've got trucks who can come in right away and do things. But here, 7 days is kind of the mark. And I think I heard somebody was talking about you should have at least 1 gallon of water per person per day.
Correct.
So 7 gallons of water for each person in your household. And that's just a starting point.
Correct. And because you also want to be thinking about bathing, we do have showers, and God bless the ocean, except in a storm condition, you have a lot of things going into the ocean. And I know after Iniki hit, they were warning people not to go in the water, not because of possibility of sharks, but because there were a lot of bacteria and sewage released as a result of these storms. So people that have specific bathing needs, maybe for medical reasons and stuff, or infants, those kind of things, they need to be thinking ahead of that. Things like feminine hygiene products, toilet paper, the things that when you think of on your list, what could you not live without? Usually it's some of these very basic human needs. And we know there's a run on the stores as soon as everybody realizes that this thing is coming. So to avoid that and keep your stress level down, and businesses are businesses, and it's a supply and demand business. So I would buy those things when they're on sale, and you can keep at least an extra supply available. Large garbage bags are very, very important. The large gallon ones, it's amazing. You'll be picking up debris. Sometimes it'll be the only thing you have to lay on. So, those are important things. If you were to go to the Red Cross website, www.redcross.org, there are a number of lists on that on hurricane preparedness and just general preparedness for things as simple as a single-family fire, flooding events, hurricanes, those are significant events. And remember, this was a tropical depression. And I was thinking of that afterwards. Imagine if it had kept its force of a storm.
Right.
Or we
right.
had that sustained for a number of hours.
Because as a tropical depression, it's the lowest of the storm
Correct.
cycle.
Right. It's
that we can
dependent
have
upon
out
the
there.
wind.
Yeah,
the
right.
wind strength.
So now you just mentioned fire, and we had one not too long ago.
Yes, there was a pretty tragic fire. Well, there was one recently on Lanai, and we had 5 of our volunteers respond to that. And as you know, there's only 3,000, I believe, residents on the island of Lanai. But we have a pretty core group of people that our executive director here on Maui, Michelle Liberty, has really worked very, very hard at building our volunteers on both Molokai and Lanai. And these people stepped right up to the plate. And there's so many services that a family needs when they've been displaced by fire. Mental health services because the trauma of something like that, sometimes public health service, a place to live. How do they put their lives together? Where do they go? Housing isn't necessarily easily available on a small island. And social services if there's children involved. So there's a whole myriad of things, and our responders over on Lanai, I think, did a great job. We had a pretty significant fire here on Maui back in June that affected 3 families, and pretty tragically. They lost, the house was a total. All structures were a total. And one of those families was actually present for the fire, which was very difficult for the children to witness. And then the other families had been away on vacation and had gotten the call. And we met with them this last weekend. And I'll tell you, even though they mentally knew what they were coming home to, they really didn't know until they had to go back to their home and realize there really was nothing left.
See that there was nothing there.
Yes.
I can't imagine that. Fire is one of the things that scares me probably more than anything. I'm pretty shy of water too, and when it's coming down in full force, but a fire is just, it has a life of its own.
It does, and it engulfs, and there's I think just a natural human fear of it because it's not a power that we see very often in our lives. It's kind of all of a sudden there's this power that we're not accustomed to dealing with. Water has power,
right?
And waves and energy, but fire is a different animal.
And we sit and we watch fire in a fireplace, and it's beautiful,
It's
and it's
soothing.
relaxing, and it's just so neat. You hear the crackling of the wood and so forth. But put that as your house that's on fire, and the crackling is your life.
And think of that when it comes to being ready for any disaster. We all enjoy a good glass of water. However, after a disaster, a glass of water can save your life. People can go a couple days without food, but we can't go very long without water. Again, don't assume that Mother Ocean is going to be available to us in those first couple days. There's a lot of things that get dumped in the ocean in a storm. And it's not healthy, or it's not good for the populace necessarily from a health standpoint. To be in the water during those days.
Right.
So some of the simple pleasures that we have in every day really become necessities for survival after a storm or after any kind of an event.
Right. So now in your teaching, what kind of classes are you teaching right now?
Well, right now, in fact, last night was disaster services overview, where we, if we have a person that's interested in becoming a volunteer with Red Cross, and I really want to encourage all of you listening to, if you have any extra time, we can sure use volunteers. We currently have 124 volunteers that actively serve Maui County. However, you can imagine in a large disaster, that isn't a whole lot of people. We do have our partners through Civil Defense who have trained a lot of people in community. But from our actually trained Red Cross volunteers, we're always trying to grow that base. So the courses that many of us teach are the basic courses that any volunteer would need to know to be able to respond to an incident. Sheltering services, feeding services, logistics, how you move equipment from one place to another and get it into a shelter. An overview of the values and the principles that Red Cross is based on. The beauty of this training is that it stays with you lifelong. There's always more opportunity to take additional and specialized training. We get mental health training, just some very basic stuff, dealing with people in trauma and crisis situations, and then we refer them to our mental health practitioners. But the other thing is, if you're trained here in Hawaii and you complete your certification, you can be asked or move if you need to relocate back to the mainland for some reason or up to the mainland. Or a lot of our workers here in Hawaii have been asked to respond to Sandy and some other mainland events. We have people from all over the country coming, and the one common thread we have is we've all been trained with the same material. So we're able to get ourselves, mobilized a lot quicker and jump in and be effective because we all know the basic stuff.
Right. Now, some of the basics. Is there a program that you have that you can take into like a business to train?
Yes, and
staff?
that is one thing that we currently are really trying to develop, our community partner program. Last night when I was at the office, this very enthusiastic group of kids from the Job Corps showed up at the office. They heard that we were having training, and they didn't quite know what the full process was, but they really wanted to do it. They knew we had 4 classes they had to complete. And so having taught high school, I said, you know what, you guys, I think we can talk with Michelle and bring this program to you folks, so you're not having to come in like this after hours and be able to do this. So there is a program in place that we have statewide with our community partners and businesses where we'll go in so that you have trained people within your own business. And faith-based groups, we do this a lot with.
I see. Well, I can see where that would be a big help in cases like the storm that we just had, where people were working during the day and everybody's kind of waiting for the signal to go or home or do whatever. If your office or your business has trained people right there, that could calm a lot of the people who don't know what's happening, and assist those that maybe do get hurt if something comes sooner than it was expected.
Or you have customers in your business
Exactly.
and somebody gets hurt or they start to panic. Or like we had on this one, a lot of travelers. We had stranded travelers and families, especially at the War
Right.
Memorial.
For several days, yeah.
Well,
You had 'em the 2 nights or something. That one night.
That poor guys lost their electricity, yeah. Welcome to Hawaii.
What we look at that and we go, yeah. When they're taking their once in a lifetime trip to Hawaii, and where'd they spend one night? The War Memorial Gym. Okay, Angel, thank you so much. What an overview you've given us of Red Cross and the programs, and we all need to be more alert to what's going on around us.
And thank you so much, because what Red Cross does is dependent upon being able to mobilize volunteers that are educated and trained, and also the generosity of so many of the donors here on Maui, whether they're donating time, talent, or money. All of it is important to what we're able to do.
And to get in touch with you, the phone number is
244-0051. And that is our Red Cross office here on Maui. And we can be glad to receive their calls.
very good, very
We
good.
will be.
Well,
thank you.
I know Michelle's doing a great job
she's
with
doing a great
training
job.
people, and as you said, she's been working a lot on Molokai and Lanai.
Yeah.
It seems like every time I talk to her, she's either coming from or going to.
Yes.
So
And Hana too. We've got a terrific group of people over in Hana.
great,
too.
great. Thank you so much,
You're so
Angel.
welcome.
Appreciate it. We're going to shift gears a little bit now, and we're going to talk to some folks from MEO, otherwise known as Maui Economic Opportunity, and the Early Childhood Services folks. Kamiki Carter, Family Case Manager.
Hi.
Hi,
Aloha.
you've been here before, and we hear your voice on the radio about the start of or enrollment for.
You got it.
Yeah?
Thanks, Gary.
So it's a very familiar voice. We also have Debbie Amaral, who's the director of the program.
Aloha.
Hi, Debbie. How you doing?
Excellent.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it's good to see you again.
Good to see you too.
And I know you've had a tough time getting ready for this year because of the sequestration cuts.
Yes.
And they've taken effect now, yeah?
They have. We were notified on March 1st that it would impact our 2013 budget. And so, when we went into it, it started on June 1st of this year. So it impacted this
Summer.
current program year. Well, when we start the program year, our funding program year, it starts for our program. It's June 1st to May 31st.
Okay.
So while we're prepping, we had to make some adjustments in terms of what we had projected. And the cut was quite significant. It cut 40 slots, meaning 40 children.
Wow.
So it impacted two programs. We had to close down our Lihikai Pre-Plus program and one of the Kihei programs.
My goodness.
So, what the National Head Start Association is encouraging people to do is to place 40 chairs for our program. Each program was impacted differently, but there's a campaign that, it has to be visual. So take a photo of 40 children's chairs in the yard that are empty to show what that looks like. Because,
Wow.
It's easy for some individuals to, what's 40?
That's only 40.
It really, in our community, in our
Right.
small community, it really was an impact.
Well, now you have how many students?
We do have 258 now. We were at 298,
Okay.
but due to the sequestration cut, we
Right.
are now serving 258 children.
And you typically have a waiting list that's almost equal to that, if I understand correctly.
Absolutely. Since I think it's been about maybe 3 years now where people started having more of a difficult, when the economy was having more challenges. We have people who were once middle income that found themselves without a job, facing possible homelessness. So the amount of children that were on the wait list were over 200. And out of that number, there was a high majority that were also income eligible,
Wow.
which tells us that there's definitely a need in our community.
For sure. And then to have 40 seats cut. And you can't just take one or two out of a classroom.
No.
That doesn't work because that doesn't save you any money.
No, it doesn't, because you still need to have the number of, because we're licensed through the Department of Human Services in our state, you have to have at least 2 adults, and they have to be qualified. They have to pass all of the credentials in order to serve the children. And in Head Start, our requirement is 1 adult to 10 children. So in a classroom of 20, we have to have a minimal of 2.
Too. And so you had a total how many classrooms before the cut?
Before the cut, we had 13. We had
13 here on. We had 13 here on Maui, 2 on Molokai, and a partnership on Lanai. And then after the sequestration's cut, we now have 11 here on Maui. So
So it seems to me like at one point during budget hearings, maybe it was, people would say, oh, we'll just take 2 seats out of each classroom and you've got your 40 basically cut. And I remember different people saying, it doesn't work like that.
Yes.
You cannot do that.
No.
That does not save the kind of money that we're being cut.
It's not realistic. And, in order to determine where the cuts were going to be implemented, it took a lot of communication, a lot of data researching to see where. And unfortunately, we worked with our board, we worked with our Head Start Policy Council, which is made up of parents, and also looked at towards the staff, because the staff are the key individuals that really work closely with the families. So collaboratively, we came to the conclusion on the locations.
Right. So now I'm hearing kind of in the wind that this could continue.
Well, I saw on the front page of the Maui News, right on the top, on the headlines, it shows that we might be moving in a direction where, and it's my wishful thinking. I'm hoping that we do not face this again, because, again, for such a small community, it would devastate our residents if we lose any more slots with Head Start. I really would like to speak out to the audience to say, if you feel that you want to advocate and you have that voice, that you need to make it clear that we do not want to take sequestration for seniors, for children, to vulnerable families. We cannot continue to lose more services to balance our budget. That is not, in my opinion, that's not the answer.
It seems to be hurting the wrong segment of the population.
Unfortunately, it is.
And whether that's an intended consequence or unintended, that's the damage.
Definitely. And we're seeing the impact, and I'm not sure if everyone would remember, but the FAA, when they went ahead and they were closing down some airport controllers, and then, it was going to impact,
Your
travel
flights.
for
Oh,
some
yeah.
people, and they quickly they found the funding to support that. And so, I really would love to encourage people to advocate, because I think that, when people are thinking about the Meals on Wheels programs that were cut, or maybe medical services or Head Start services that impacts not only preschool, but also the birth, it's the whole gamut, the birth to 5, which this is so critical, because research have shown that a child who is in a perhaps challenging or high-risk environment, if it's mitigated by a quality early childhood program, these children have such a great potential to be successful in their lifetime.
All the difference in the world.
It makes all the difference in the world. So
Hang on to that thought. We got to
Got
take
it.
another break.
all right.
Aloha from Pacific Source, and thank you for your support over the years. Pacific Source has offered more of what builders and homeowners value most in building materials and cabinet design. We've done this by offering superior customer service and products, as well as by designing kitchens and baths that are intelligent and elegant while staying true to your vision and budget. Visit our showroom in Waikapu in Central Maui, where we display a variety of cabinets as well as top-name appliances like Sub-Zero, Wolf, Viking, KitchenAid, and more. We display countertops, tile and wood flooring, and several brands of windows and doors, including Fleetwood multi-slides and La Cantina folding doors. Come in and talk to our designers about making your dreams become a reality. From concept to completion, we really believe our attention to detail and superior service are what sets us apart. Let us show you what we mean. We are a Pacific Source at 515 East Oahe Way in the Consolidated Base Yard in Waikapu, just off Waiko Road. Call us at 986-0380. That's 986-0380, or look us up online at packsource.com.
Okay, Debbie, off the table.
Oh, okay.
No more dancing. That's it for the music. We have every week when the guests are here and the music starts for the start of the show.
You have one
It's like,
dancer?
okay, we were talking seriously about what we're going to talk about on the radio, and then the music starts, and it's like everybody's going, and I don't know, folks. You can put your own image to what we're doing here for these couple of seconds, but everybody's ready to just go for it.
No, it's
and-
the comfort. That's why it's the top story part of the day.
Right. It's and I love the music. What is it again, Gary? Where did it come from?
I think it's a Britney Spears song, I think.
No, it's not.
You
think it
maybe
is?
one more time. Hey.
Whatever. Okay. All right. Well, anyway, we are talking story with Kamiki Carter and Debbie Amaral from the MEO Early Childhood Services Program. And we're talking about the cuts that sequestration, say that fast, have done to them, or have made them make, I should say. And now, has the school year started for you?
We already have selected children. They're all in place. The staff has started, and they're doing their home visits right now, which is a requirement of Head Start, setting up their classrooms. And their first day is going to be on August the 13th. And
Next
They
week?
start their transitioning tomorrow, 1 hour if they were cleared to go into the classroom.
yeah, there was this whole thing with the TB clearances when there was a lack of serum for TB. So we got official notice from the state that it was something that we couldn't require families to have because there was a shortage. But they recently have received inventory. So now we're out of that shortage situation. And so families are coming in with their child's TB, and we're hoping that they'll all be ready to start.
Cool. Very good. So, but that's the normal start time. Nothing's been delayed.
No. And other programs within our nation were given all the options. They could shorten the program year, they could shorten the program day, whatever way that they needed to do it in order to implement the sequestration cut. And for our program, we already had done. The thing is, with Head Start, there's so many different requirements and so many things that we have to provide that cost money. And living here, we all know the cost of doing business and the cost of living is quite high. So we couldn't keep up with our current budget. So we had to make some essential cuts. So we did that on the first round, which was done in January. The sequestration pretty much impacted us a second time around.
Wow.
So it was like a double whammy for us in this in prepping for this program year. But I do want to say that with the 258 children and the staff that we have, I'm very optimistic. I think we're going to have a fantastic school year, and I think Kamiki can echo that.
Yes, we will.
And so we're looking forward to serving our 258 children that we have.
I got you. And there's certain milestones that you have to hit during the year, and so shortening the year is really not an option.
No, and because we serve a large population of working families, our goal is to remain open so that we can continue to serve these individuals. And I have to put a shout out to our County of Maui, which provides us with what we call wraparound services, but they provide the funding so we can open full day at 6 locations.
I see.
Head Start's designed to be a part-day program.
So how does a part-day program help families do their work lives?
I believe that the program is more so designed to prepare children for kindergarten, and we're not intended to be a service that provides support for families to go to work. It's the focus is more on preparing children to be ready for
Right.
kindergarten and to close that achievement gap, which research again has shown that children who are from low-income households may be farther behind than other children that are at middle to high
Right.
income ranges. So our purpose is to close that gap and make sure children are ready to be
Right.
successful in school when the time comes. But what we have noticed is the fact that because we want to build self-sufficiency for families, we want them to go back to school. We want them to obtain employment. And I'm going to let Kamiki speak a little because I feel like I'm just hogging this mic. But Kamiki works directly with the families, and she does an exceptional job in
you.
supporting them to be at their fullest potential.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
And that's a family case manager. So
Family case manager. So, I mean, as Debbie is saying, our program is geared for kindergarten readiness. We emphasize with the families that our program is not just a drop-in program. They actually, kind of have to malama and be a part of the program. And it's kind of expectation that we have out of the families as far as providing their child with the best foundation, as they're going on to school.
So you're actually in some certain respect teaching the families how to be parents
You
and
got
help
it.
their children be prepared for that next
And
level of
we
education.
recognize the families as the children's first teachers.
Right.
And building that foundation with the families, we're able to bridge together a support where, the child, not only the child, but we look at the families. We're able to support the families to make sure that their basic needs are taken care of, their foundation is solid, so that when the kids do go back to school, yes, they are looking for either going back to school themselves, maybe getting their GED, going back to maybe going to college, also looking for maybe a part-time job. With that county funds, we have the families do have the accessibility to a longer day program, which would be, they would find a job, and based on availability at those longer day programs, a child may be able to be supported. The family may be able to be supported to get a longer day program. So that would support them in either going to school longer, getting working longer, or so forth. So, the positive thing is that, again, Head Start is such a cohesive program that we not only look at focusing only on their children. That is our main concern, please don't get me wrong, but we also focus working with the families and making sure that they feel that they are part of this whole process, and that they have people here who really genuinely care about them and want to see and provide them with whatever resources is out there, providing them with that information so that they can be successful and set themselves up for success.
There you go. Yeah. And your teacher turnover is not great.
No, we had minimal teacher turnover. Some people left because they moved off the island, but we've been very fortunate. And on top of that, in terms of new staff coming in, we have a great crew this year. I'm really excited about the staff that we have.
Terrific, and because they're the ones that the families are working with, and that respect that is gained over some period of time is very important.
We have great case managers too.
Oh, of course.
She's representing.
And our mommy is awesome too. Oops.
Yeah, we're so fortunate. In terms of the eligibility, this program is provided at no cost to the families. And in order to be eligible, they have to meet the federal income guidelines for the state of Hawaii. We do have 10%, so now we have 25 that can be considered over income. But those families would need to have a child that's certified with disabilities through the Department of Education.
I see.
And, in terms of what's provided, we provide a breakfast, we provide lunch, toothbrushes, all school supplies. There is nothing that the parent provides except for their child, which is the most precious person. But, just bringing a change of clothing. And we, as Kamiki said, our expectation is that the parent is going to be present and participate in this wonderful experience of early childhood.
And participate in various activities that you have for them. So you do have some days when the parents are right there as part of a program or even just class time.
You got it.
Right?
We do have families also that's on the First to Work program, and they actually come in because they're mandated to do a certain amount of hours per week, per month. And so we do have families that actually volunteer in the classroom to support that particular request or need.
Right.
And so, it's such a positive thing. We have a great family engagement manager. Her name is Roberta. And Roberta, has a lot of positive things where she, includes the families. It's just the way that the program is set up. The families who even are working, they can, maybe come in on a parent work day that's scheduled on the weekend. And so there are always opportunities for the families to be involved. Families could even take home napkins and cut napkins. Something as simple as those kind of tasks that may not require the families to actually be in the classroom. It's available. It's available.
Right. Well, what age group are we talking about?
We're talking about the 3 and 4-year-olds. This year, we changed our age eligibility because we're preparing for next year. Next year, our state will be changing kindergarten age eligibility. Children will need to be 5 by July 31st. And children who are born after July 31st, turning 5 after that, they'll have to wait a whole other year before entering kindergarten.
How much of a change is that? What is it now?
It's right now, last year when we did our acceptance, we were accepting children that were born by December 31st of the year, turning 3 or 4. This year we changed it because what would happen if we didn't make the change is we would have several children that would be repeating Head Start for a 3rd year.
I see.
And the way that the federal government has it set up, excuse me, is that children who are repeating on a 3rd year, they will have to go through another income eligibility test, if you will.
Assessment.
It's going to be an assessment where their income will be, again, checked to see if they're income eligible. For children who enter the program at 3 years of age, the families are considered eligible and they are retained for a 2nd year.
I see.
Without having to look at the assessment again because of the fact that it's proven that a child can benefit from a 2-year program. The reason why we do set up that 4-year-olds have higher priorities because these children only have 1 year.
Right.
They do not have a 2nd year. So priority is given to 4-year-olds. However, we do enroll several 3-year-old children. And but yeah, that's a huge change. And I think the community, for those who are not familiar, if you do have a child that's turning 5 next year, if they're born after July 31st, so between August 1st to December 31st, they will need to repeat another year of preschool. They will not be eligible for kindergarten. And then in our state, kindergarten is not mandated. So that's something that a lot of people don't know. It's not a requirement. But it is available at our public schools, and many families, especially working families, they want to have that support. The challenge becomes when children enter kindergarten without any preschool experience, because they may not have the social skills, the cognitive skills, the concept thinking. So preschool or early childhood education, such as Head Start, provides that opportunity for children to be in that environment and learn those skills. So again, more apt to be successful.
Right. Starting out on the right foot.
Yes.
Right. So, what else do we want to tell our friends out there that are listening?
Oh, about Kahi Kamali'i.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
Your other program.
The Early Childhood Services program at MEO. We have two, our department operates two programs. One is the Head Start program, which is statewide. Well, it is statewide, but for MEO, we provide it countywide. And then we also have Kahi Kamali'i. Kahi Kamali'i is an infant toddler program. It's located as a partnership with the J. Walter Cameron Center, right next door to both of our offices off of Mahalani Street. It is not a federally funded program. It is a tuition-based program. Families that are participating may qualify for Child Care Connection, which is a state subsidy, or again, our County of Maui provides us with some funding to provide a scholarship for that program. So those who are income eligible can apply and see if they qualify. But it's for children ages 6 months to 3 years of age, and we're really proud about that program.
What are the hours, Debbie, for that center?
That center has two separate operating hours, although it's joined together. But the first group starts at 7:30, ends at 4, and then the second group at 8 o'clock and ends at 4:30.
Oh, okay.
And they're a 12-month program, whereas Head Start breaks during the summer.
Year-round.
But again, County of Maui.
Thank you.
We
thank
love
you.
our county. They provide us
Mahalo.
with support during the summer for 4 centers on Maui and 1 on Molokai. So again, for our working families, for Head Start, we're really fortunate.
And for more information,
For more information,
You can
Kamiki.
contact our office at 249-2988. Again, our office number is 249-2988.
I do want to say that on the island of Molokai, we have a branch at the Molokai branch office. They can contact Lydia Joao. And on the island of Lanai, we do partner with the Emalama Ina Keiki o Lanai Preschool, and they can contact the director there, Gail Shin. And if you lose any of the information, call the Maui office. We'll be happy to direct you.
great. Well, I want to thank you both for all the information you've given us today.
Thank you for having us.
And it's just
over and over
and over.
and over.
Hey, well, I guess the thing that we have to consider is that kids are turning 3 every day.
Right.
And so some parents may be sitting back saying, well, when it's time, and now all of a sudden they're saying, wait.
Right. And another thing, Susie, that is important, we're not a first come, first serve in terms of our enrollment. We continuously take applications throughout the program year because we have many families that move or, something happens where the slot is open and Head Start requires us to fill that slot within 30 days.
I see.
So we highly encourage people, even if you're not sure, come down and apply.
Very good. Very good. Thank you so much. Thanks to all three of you for joining us today. We've had Angel Devlin Brown, who was talking about Red Cross, Kamiki Carter and Debbie Emerald talking about early childhood services programs with Head Start. This show is sponsored by Pacific Source as a community service, and we want you all out there to take a look around. There's lots of nonprofits around. You want to get busy, you want to volunteer, advocate. We talked about that a couple times here today, advocating and volunteering for your favorite nonprofit. Do it today. What are you waiting for? Please visit our website at mauinonprofit.org for a list of our member agencies. And again, mahalo for tuning in, and don't forget to join us again next week at noon right here, KAOI 1110 AM 96.7 FM, when we'll be featuring representatives of 2 more agencies. I'm getting the high sign from Gary. Susie, speed it up. I'm Susie Tiemann, president of Maui Nonprofit Directors Association.